Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today I'm delighted to be joined by FPLSalah to preview Game Week 35. Abdul, first of all though, we are midweek through Game Week 34 as it stands. One more set of fixtures to go tonight. Well, I say set, you have 6 players remaining, but they're all playing in the same game. So You're currently on a red, but what are you thinking going forward?
I think this week kind of all really depends on how my players perform. If Fernandez or March get in the points this week, then I should be up in a nice green.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at your team so far. It's been an interesting game week. You have some of the big hitters in there for sure, but I've got to say, Robertson stands out. That is just supremely unlucky. Talk to us about that first of all.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I was unlucky. I think I made a mistake there. I knew there was a chance of him. I mean, we all kind of knew there was a chance of him getting rested, at midweek, but albeit it was a small chance, I'd say, because, with Klopp playing this new system, we explained in the video last week, there was a smaller chance than usual that the Tsimikas would get a game. I should just took the extra -4 for Trent because end of the day, he is a better asset. And, he's already paid off the -4. I was worried about him not paying off the -4 over 3 game weeks because I was going to sell him in game week 36. But yeah, I think that goes down as a mistake on my behalf. And I'm just going to have to hope Trent doesn't punish me further.
So what would you have had to have done? So your transfers that you made with Robertson would chill. So you would have had to take another. What would your other move have been?
Yeah, so what I would have done was Watkins to Isaac. And then Chilwell to Trent instead of Chilwell to Robbo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the Isaac move obviously would have been one that I'm very likely going to make in 36 anyway. But I mean, if Watkins kind of outscores Isaac this week and Robbo gets kind of like the same score as Trent in game week 35, then I could well. I could claw those points back, but at the moment I'm like 5 points down, and I've not got Trent. So yeah, it's a bit of a blunder from me, to be honest.
Fair enough. You did mention the risk, and you knew, as you just said there, that Tsimikas could easily come in. There's not really anyone else that's going to come in the right back slot these days. What I want to ask you is, when you have players that you want to get in, you're a very esteemed fantasy manager, what players to get in, and I mean, obviously everyone knows that Trent is one of the best defenders in the game. If there isn't an easy way to get to that player and you have to do something else, I mean, that is the game. But what sort of advice do you give to people that can't get to the player? Maybe their team value is not as good. They have to look differential. They're doing suboptimal moves because they're kind of just forced into it. Is that just part of the game, or should we take more hits? What do you think there?
No, I mean, the thing was, I think you've got to kind of weigh it up in terms of there's always, alternative options. But, if you're looking at over a longer period, then, you'd obviously get Trent in this situation. But because, the kind of time period was only going to be like 3 game weeks, then, in this situation, I didn't think it was kind of, I thought it was quite a borderline whether it was worth it or not. But generally, if a player is much better than, if player A is much better than player B, and, it's the start of the season and there's a whole season to go, then you take that extra hit for the player because it's over the long term, it's going to pay off for sure. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, it's quite a complicated question to answer because there's so many different scenarios. But generally, you if you can take a hit for the better player over a longer period, then you do that.
Okay, yeah, it's just something that I've been personally thinking about. Knowing that what you're doing isn't what you ideally want to be doing, but being forced down a route where you have to go with a different player or a different strategy or take a hit, that sort of thing. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Nonetheless, are definitely some positives in your team. I mean, quite a few of your players that are playing tonight already have very good scores, and again, we go again tonight. But I do just want to mention, and I feel like I'm piling on the negativity here, but a player that I transferred in this week, Edison. Thoughts on him?
I mean, I couldn't blame myself for the Robbo situation, right? Because we knew that, but Ederson, I was not expecting that. I mean, we kind of tout him for the most nailed City pick. He's absolutely nailed to the floor. That's the reason why we all got him, because we knew that. We thought that he's the one that's going to play the 2 games in the doubles, and the defenders are too risky. But yeah, I just didn't understand. I mean, Pep said that he wanted to rest him for for mental purposes. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure I believe that. I just really hope he keeps his place.
Do you want to have a quick guess at his points over the last 7 game weeks where he's started 6 times?
Is it 8 points?
It's 9.
9. And then Ortega got 7 points, or I think 8 points in one game.
Yeah, he picked up a bonus. It's unbelievable. Hey,
yes, you can't make
fun,
this stuff up, man. This is just FPL. This is just FPL in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask you this is because we're going to get into your team now for the upcoming game week, and I think that City players in particular are on a lot of people's radars for this week, given they have such a good fixture at home. Obviously, you've got Edison sitting there at the back. Let's just talk about City players in general for now, including Haaland. Are you going to captain him? And then best City players to transfer in for this week and the future?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment the captain is on Haaland, yeah, but it's one of those situations where, I mean, see what we might get early team news for Gameweek 35, right? Because there's 4 games on at 3:00, so I will be waiting for that. And City is one of those games because City have got Real Madrid on Tuesday, so I do think there's a chance Haaland gets benched this game week.
Yeah.
I think the most likely scenario is he starts and maybe comes off early, but there is definitely a chance he gets benched. But so at the moment, the captaincy is on him, but it could well change to Salah. And I think this is probably quite a dangerous week to maybe bring in City players because of that Real Madrid fixture. So, I mean, for me personally, I'd say, if you've got City players there, obviously keep them, but probably just wait until 37, to bring in your City players. I do think that Pep is going to play his strongest team against Real Madrid, which means some of the big names could potentially get benched this week, or at the very least get reduced minutes.
So let's just get straight into what you're thinking of doing with your team then. Just go for it. What are your plans?
Yeah, so at the moment, as things stand, I'm going to save, but that could well change because if we get early team news that De Bruyne is benched and Alvarez is starting again, then Watkins to Alvarez seems like a really good 1 week punt. And then the thing with that is it's kind of risk free because in game week 36, I can just transfer Alvarez to Isaac or Wilson. So it's and and I've already got 3 Brighton players there. And then, bringing in that third Newcastle player, I'll have, a kind of a full roster of double game week players. So I'm pretty well set up, which is why I can afford to make that move. So yeah, it all really depends on that, getting early team news, basically. Alvarez is a high upside punt, high upside pick. Against Leeds at home. Leeds have conceded the most goals in the league. They've also conceded the third most XGC. So that kind of game could be a bloodbath, really. So yeah, so at the moment it's a save, but if we get early team news and Alvarez starts, then that will be the move, because I do think that with De Bruyne being injured and he's missed these last 2 games, I think the most likely scenario is that he starts from the bench and he gets minutes off the bench, which means that Alvarez has got a chance of starting again. So we'll see.
What's interesting is that if you had done that extra hit to fund Trent in for Robertson, obviously you'd be up on points, but I don't think you'd be in that position. I don't think you would be saying, if I see that Alvarez is starting, I can go Isak to Alvarez and then just go back to him the week after. Or would you do that? Say you had Isak in already instead of Watkins?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I would, because
okay, fair enough. Yeah,
it doesn't really make a difference in that sense, because it's still a 1 week punt, and Isaac would have had Arsenal this week, which but probably would be even more tempting to make that move, to be honest. So that's why I'm really kicking myself over that move. It just it was one of those where I just made a mistake. So yeah, I mean, if I had Isaac and I found out Alvarez was starting, then I'd probably make that move. Yeah.
Of course, very good point. It's 2 transfers anyways, and it doesn't matter who the players are. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So, I mean, overall, the team is looking pretty good, right? Again, as it seems to have had for the past 7-8 game weeks, you're on a game week rating on the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub of well over 90%. Looks very solid. Let's talk a little bit about Brighton players, because again, a good fixture at home.
Yeah.
Just been talking a little bit off camera about your fears of McAllister and how you need him not to do well to get a green arrow. let's talk about him first of all, and his positioning, and the fact that he is now playing a lot deeper. If you're not on 3 Brighton players, which ones would you target?
Yeah, if you're not on 3, I think I'd go Matoma, March, and Estupian. The 3 I've got. Or I mean, you could possibly go, 1 midfielder and 2 defenders. But those would be my top 3, the ones I've got at the moment. I mean, the reason being is McAllister, has been playing deep. And Veltman, who came in last game, he got injured again by the looks of it. So if he's injured, that means Gross will move to right back, and which means it's likely that McAllister will play deep again. So yeah, it's not really looking good for McAllister right now in terms of position. He does still obviously have penalties, Jack, but I don't think that's really enough. When you've got Matoma and March there who've got goal and assist threat. So yeah, it all really depends on Veltman. I mean, I don't know how serious the injury is. He did come off injured. He could be back for United today. Who knows? But if he's not, then yeah, it's not a good sign for McAllister.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at 36 now, because if you're rolling this week, I think there's going to be a lot of interest into what your initial plans are right now for 36.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a slot there for a Newcastle player. I want to instantly ask about Isak v Wilson and where you're standing on that, because a captaincy decision in 36 may well come down to those two as well. So it's a really big decision if you're going to go for one of those two.
Exactly. You may spot on. It's a huge decision, which at the time of thinking was one of the reasons not to bring in Isak this week, because just in case Wilson was the one to go for. But yeah, I mean, whichever one you bring in is likely going to be your captain. And and I've got 3 Brighton, so my third, obviously, the player that I'm going to bring in is going to be Isak or Wilson for Watkins. At the moment, I'm thinking Isak, right? Because I mean, he started the last 4 games. He started 3 in the last 4, and Wilson has been benched in 3 of the last 4. I know he came off the bench against Southampton, scored a brace. He also scored a brace in the game before that, the game he started in, and Howe dropped him the next game. But also at the same time, Eddie Howe has said that he's actually come out and said that he might play both of them. He said it's not just a case of playing one or the other. He does see a time where that both will be on the pitch at the same time. But I mean, we know from Eddie Howe, previous kind of history, he's not the most reliable when it comes to press conferences.
Yes.
He's a bit of a nightmare in that sense. So I'm not really sure. I mean, my gut is telling me that the way he's doing at the moment is working, right? He's playing one, predominantly playing Isak, and then Wilson comes off the bench. So I think my kind of gut is telling me that will be how he goes, how he does it going forward. I am glad that we're not making that move this week, because I think the lineup against Arsenal might tell us a lot more. Game 35, and what I mean, I think if he goes for Isak again and puts Wilson on the bench, then I think it's pretty much clear that that's going to be his plan going forward. If he starts both of them, then it makes it really interesting. I think that's when Wilson really comes into the picture, because if he does start both, then Wilson's going to play up top, whereas Isak is going to play in the left wing, which is what he's been doing when they're both on the pitch at the same time. And Wilson will be the one with the higher goal threat, and he is a better finisher than Isak, and I think he's going to be the one on penalties as well, because he is the main penalty taker. Isak took the last penalty, but obviously Wilson wasn't on the pitch, so I do think he's on the penalties as well, Wilson.
Yeah, I just know that that's going to be just the biggest swing. Anything for you because you have the 2 Newcastle defenders right now, have you given any thought to dropping Botman to get them both in up top and just getting rid of the variance almost? I don't know what you think about the clean sheets for that week as well.
Excuse me. I have looked at it, but it's just not possible. Even if I was to get rid of Trippier, I would need to take like a -8 at least to bring in the 2. So I don't think it's worth it. I think if you're in a position where you've only got 1 Newcastle defender and you can bring in 2, then quite possibly it'll still be a risk to bring in them both, but quite possibly it could pay off. But in my position, I think if you've got 2 defenders there, just stick to the 2 defenders. I mean, the defence still isn't bad. I mean, they've only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 13 games.
Yeah.
But over that period, they are still, 4th best for goals conceded. I did have a look at this when I was looking at the double defence, and they're the 4th best for XGC as well. So the defence hasn't been bad. it just hasn't been as good as it was, in the first half of the season. So, and on top of that, Trippier's got, the attacking threat there as well. So I'm fairly happy with the double defence, and I'm fairly happy just to kind of risk it with one of them.
Absolutely.
One of Isaac and Wilson, sorry.
Final question that I want to ask you, which I should have asked you a little bit earlier, because I do think that a lot of people watching this may well be looking at a City defender this week to bring in, or a City attacker. Say we don't get any news on Alvarez, so people probably don't risk it, don't go there, but they still want to get a City defender in. Maybe they don't have Edison to cover that defence. I mean, it does seem like a good fixture alone this week, and then obviously after that you have Everton, and then the double, and then a decent Game Week 38 fixture. So if you were to get a City defender in right now, this game week, until the end of the season, who would you get?
Probably Diaz. I think he's the most nailed. I think Stones is the one with the most upside. He's got the higher goal threat, but I do think Diaz is the one who is most likely to play the most games over from now until the end of the season.
Wow, okay. Only because just watching Stones last night, I don't know his stats, but just the eye test, he seemed to be so high. He was in the box a lot. Had a good chance that he skied. Obviously, it's Stones. He's not an amazing finisher, but we've seen what he can do in double game weeks before. The same goes with Diaz. Yeah,
no, Diaz has got a bit of goal threat as well, but not as much as Stones. But he is just the most nailed. I mean, I think I'm going to bring in a City defender in 37 anyway, and I think Diaz is probably going to be the one.
But again, a lot of your decisions are going to come down to team news. Absolutely, it's a bit of a watershed moment this week. A 3:00 game being on TV.
There's no early kickoff. Yeah,
I don't know if that's ever happened before. Yeah, first of all, no early kickoff, and secondly, a 3:00 game being shown live in the UK. I don't know if that's ever happened.
I don't think it has. No, I think
maybe a watershed moment. Who knows?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I doubt it. I think. They'd make a lot less money, wouldn't they, the Premier League, if they'd put all the theatre cut games on. So I mean, I think it's probably just a one-off.
I don't know. Well, it does baffle me slightly why games aren't on TV, but nonetheless, that is it's all good fun, isn't it? I love not being able to watch my team play every week just because they're playing at 3:00. It's great. There we go, guys. That is going to do it for this one. If you do want to have a mess around yourself with your team, looking how it's going to look for future game weeks. I mean, you can see on screen right here, we've gone to game week 36, but 37 as well. I'm just looking through your game week ratings. Every week is 100%, pretty much every week. It's very good stuff. I'm quite jealous.
I mean, I think most people we've all got the same teams, Jack. I mean, most people are on the same teams, which is a bit frustrating when you're trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think next season will be better because we're not going to have all these double game weeks. And, when we have all these double game weeks, Jack, we're all kind of forced into the same players and the same teams. So hopefully next season, there's no more big surprises. There's no more pandemics, no more royal family passing away. We'll have a nice normal season.
Well, we can hope. Although how many seasons has it been now where we've just had, it feels like 3 in a row maybe that it's been?
I think it's 3 now, yeah.
Oh, wow, unbelievable. Well, hopefully next season will be a little bit more normal. Yeah, I do get what you're saying. We're all kind of forced into the best players because you can't really punt when there are players that have more fixtures that are just playing really well. Okay. So yeah, guys, get involved. Link down below to have a play around yourself. And Abdul, as always, thank you very much for the advice. Very much appreciated. And guys, we will see you all next week with the next Game Week preview.